the massive success. You don't directly control luck, but you can move from a game with the new odds of success to a game with better odds. Why is you love? Okay, much better. That seems like obvious strategy, but you probably think you already do it. The hard part is figure out the odds of any given game, and that's harder than it looks. As most adults know, that is exactly the wrong answer. Slot machines are engineered to make everyone but casino a loser in the long run. But kids don't know that, I presume. They confuse the benefits of persistence, which is drilled into them as kids, with the actual odds of succeeding. If you're reading this book, you're probably an adult, or close to it, and you understand the odds of slot machines. If you play them, you probably think of it as recreation and not investment. But are you equally clear about the odds that rule over other areas of your life? I didn't feel that I was choking from the psychological pressure because I typically perform better in successful situations. That feeling is so strong in me that the only reason it's classified as mental illness is that it works more often than you expect. So I wasn't getting psyched out by my losing record. 지금 너무 읽기가 힘들어요. 지금 컨디션도 안 좋고 오래간만에 지금 원서를 읽는데 한국 책 읽고 한국말 너무 많이 또 조금 하다 보니까 혀와 입 구조가 지금 힘들어요. Anyway, just 그냥 I believe in the power of routine, so I just gonna do it. Keep just going on, and my strokes were good enough. I didn't why did I lose every match against this particular opponent? I would routinely win against the players who seemed about the same level as him. My losing streak was a mystery that dogged me for years. Apparently I had some sort of blind spot. About what? How could I learn to see things I couldn't see? And if I saw it, wouldn't it help me win? I'm sorry, I should send my laptop conditions so that I should check it. Sorry about that. Okay. Setting. Okay. Excited. Okay. Okay, the psychological pressure because I typically perform better in successful situations. That feelings is so strong in me that the only reason is it isn't classified as mental illness. It's that it works more often than you expect. So I wasn't getting psyched up by my losing record, and my strokes were good enough. Why did I lose every match against this particular opponent? I would routinely win against the players who seemed about the same level as him. My losing streak was a mystery that dogged me for many years. Apparently I had some sort of blind spot about why. How could I learn to see the thing I couldn't see? And if I saw it, would it help me win? Learning the odds in tennis are harder than it looks because there's so much of it is counterintuitive. Hitting down the line while on the road only feels like it would be easy. The illusion is surprisingly strong. Every time I missed down the line spot, I was surprised, no matter how many times in a row I missed the same way. I assumed I would be able to lock in the shot if I just tried a few more times. I was wrong about that for years. The point is that while we all think we know the odds in life, there is a good chance you have some blind spots. Finding those blind spots is a big deal. The idea I'm promoting here is that it helps to see the world as the magic and not magic. Who realized I needed help maintaining a socially appropriate level of humility, but now I was just match. If you find yourself in a state of continual failure in your personal or business life, you might be blaming it on fate or karma, on animal spirits, or some other form of magic when the answer is a simple math. There is usually a pattern, but it might be subtle. Don't stop looking just because you don't see the pattern in the first 7 years. The future is totally unpredictable when it comes to your profession and your personal life at 10 years old. The best way to increase your odds of success in a way that might look like an unlock to others is to systematically become good but not amazing at the types of skills that work well together and are highly useful for just about any job. This is another example in which viewing the world as math, adding skills together, and not a magic allows you to move from a strategy with the laws of success to something better. I made a list of skills in which I think every adult should gain a working knowledge. I would expect you to become master of any, but mastery isn't necessary. Luck has a good chance of finding you if you become very good in most of these areas. I'll make a case for each one, but here's a preview list. Public speaking, psychology, business writing, accounting, design, the basics, conversation, overcoming shyness, second language, golf, proper grammar, persuasion, technology, hobby level, proper voice technique. So I decided to go and see what it was all about. Whose name explicably remembered 20 years later, gave the shortest and the most persuasive sales pitch I have ever seen. I condense it further here, but the essence was this. Tiny Snow was done selling. Instead of describing the Dale Carnegie course myself, I've asked 2 of your fellow employees who took the course to tell you what they think. He introduced the first guy and walked off. Tiny Snow was done selling. My fellow employee bounded it onto the stage as if he had just won the lottery. His energy and enthusiasm was infectious. He had no notes. He prowled the stage and it. We, the audience, locked into him like a tail, and we let him wake us. He was funny, expressive, engaging, and spontaneous. It was the best speech by non-professional I have ever seen. I could tell he loved every second out on stage, and yet he had the discipline to keep things brief. He was enjoying himself. He projected. He was clear and concise. He owned us. When it was done, Tony Snow thanked the audience and told us how we could get more information about the course. Tony Snow, magnificent bastard. The focus was public speaking, but for the reason it's too long for me to understand. Their Carnegie didn't classify it as a speaking course. It had a broad agenda. It's kind of hard to speak because I actually just start my routine for about 6 days. That's why it's kind of hard for me to speak or just read the English version of book. But I'll try it. I'm going to get used to it, right? Okay, it is what it is. I didn't waste my time because I learned a lot. Yeah, I just kind of pursue myself. It is okay, I read. Okay, rule 1 was that no one would ever criticize or correct it. Only positive reinforcement would be allowed from the instructor or from the other students. I was immediately skeptical. How was I supposed to learn if I didn't know what I was doing wrong? The next rule was that every person would speak the rest of the class during each session, but we had to volunteer to get next. This rule was more important than you might think, because most of the people in the class were deathly afraid of public speaking. The instructor acknowledged that sometimes the class will need to sit quietly for long periods and waiting for the next volunteer, and wait. We did. For some reason, going for it seemed extra bad, even though we all knew we would go eventually. The instructor stood in front of the frozen class and waited patiently, not judging, clearly having gone through this before. Eventually someone volunteered, and then another. Our speaking statement was something simple. I think we simply had to say something about ourselves. For most people, including me, this wasn't a relatively easy task, but for many in the class, it was nearly impossible. One young lady who was being forced by the employer to take the class was frightened that she literally couldn't form words. In the cool, air-conditioned room, beads of sweat ran from her forehead down to the chin and dropped onto the carpet. The audience watched in sheer pain as she battled her arm demons and tried to form words. If you were to come out, just barely, and she returned to her seat defeatedly, humiliated, broken. Then an interesting thing happened. I ranked it as one of the most fascinating things I ever witnessed. The instructor went to the front and looked at a broken student. The room was that silent. I always remember his words. He said, "Wow, that was brave." My brain spun in my head. 20-some students had been thinking this woman had just crashed and burned in some dramatically humiliating way. She had clearly thought the same thing. In 4 words, the instructor had completely reinterpreted the situation. Every one of us knew the instructor was right. We had just witnessed an extraordinary act of personal bravery, the likes of which one rarely sees. That was the takeaway, period. I looked at the student's face as she reacted to the instructor's comment. She had been alone in the misery, fighting a losing fight. But some of the instructors understood what was happening inside her. He respected. I swear, I saw a light come on in her eyes. She looked up from the floor. She had a reprieve. She was still in the fight. The next week, she volunteered to speak again. See how powerful this volunteering thing is. She owned the choice. She didn't do well, but she got through it without the priest breaking the locking up. And the instructor praised her for her progress. Every time we spoke, we got compliments from the instructor and sometimes other students. We got applaud. It felt great. Today when I see the stage and 1,000 people waiting to hear me speak, a little recording goes up in my head that says today is a good day. I'm the happiest person in the room. The audience only gets to listen, but I get to speak, to feel, to be fully alive. I will observe their energy and turn it into something good. And when I'm done, there is 100% chance that people will say good things about me. There are several things to learn from my story. There are several things to learn from that story. The most important is the transformative part of praise versus an corrosive effect of criticism. I've had a number of occasions since then to test the power of praise, and I find it an amazing force, especially for adults. Children are accustomed to the continuous stream of criticisms and praise, but adults can go weeks without a compliment while enduring criticism, both at work and at home. Adults are starved for the many kind word. When you understand the power of honest praise as opposed to bullshitting, flattery, and the sucking up, you realize that withholding it borders on immoral. If you see something that impresses you, a decent respect and humility which you insist, your voice you praise. Wow, that was brave. It's the best and cleanest example I've seen in which you look at something in a different way to change everything. When instructor switched our focus from students' poor speaking performance to her bravery, everything changed. Positivity is far more than a mental prefaces. It changes your brain, literally, and it changes the people around you. It's the nearest thing we have to magic. Another thing I learned from my Dale Carnegie experience is that we don't always have accurate view of our own potential. I think most people who are frightened of public speaking can imagine they might feel different as a result of a training. Don't assume you know how much potential you have. Sometimes the only way to know that you can do is to test yourself. It's hard to imagine any business or social activity that doesn't require a basic understanding of how the human brain perceives the world. Almost any decision we make is in the context of managing what other people will think of you. We're all in the business of selling some version of ourselves. Psychology is embedded in everything we do. Even an engineer who designs mostly with an immaturity of words needs to understand how his boss feels, how customers feel, and how users will perceive the product. You can't get away from the need to make decisions based on psychology. The examples they gave are common ones that most people figure out on their own. But given that the field of psychology is mild-depth, most people know only the stuff that qualifies as common knowledge. How much more effective would you be if you had a greater understanding of psychology? Answer: a lot. Sarah, who evidently understood a lot about psychology, told me my training skill was fine, no improvement necessary. That triggered a highly unexpected change in the actual level of talent. It went up. That's still not good, but apparently it was good enough. The sudden improvement was entirely due to Sarah's compliment of my artistic ability. I became a more confident artist, and a better one, because she changed what I thought of my own talent. It was a Wizard of Oz moment. When I look at the list of my personal failures and successes, one of the that I stand out is psychology. When I got the psychology right, either by accident or by cleverness, things worked out better. When I was blind to the psychology, things went badly. What I didn't count on my blind spot was my own comic would be compared with Dilbert, not with other new comics. Compared with the Dilbert, it was flat and lacked on edge. At the time, there was nothing to compare it with. That allowed me to get away with an bad artwork and immature writing until I could improve my skills to the not so embarrassing level. The implication is that the equality of the movie might be less important to its success than whatever the public reflexively compares with it with. Quality is not an independent force in the universe. It depends on what you choose as your frame of reference. The obscure deck strategy seemed like a perfectly good idea until I observed women walking in for lunch, look at the obscure decor, look at their own casual clothes, and proclaim to their hottest that they were underdressed. The self-assessed underdressed customer would turn and leave. I saw the scenario repeat itself over and over. None of the women who rejected themselves from the restaurant looked and underdressed to me. The restaurant wasn't that upscale. Okay, almost. It made me feel uncomfortable. To make a matter worse, our food quality wasn't up to the level people expected for place. With the type of decor, they compared our food with the top restaurants in San Francisco and decided it was suspiciously special. We failed to predict how customers would compare us. This book itself presents a especially challenging comparison problem. If I add too much humor to this book, reviewers and readers will compare it with other humor books, and it will come up short, because many of the chapters don't lend themselves to jokes. If I leave out all humor, the book will be compared with the self-help books, which would be misleading in its own way. But I probably come out better in the sort of the comparison. In other words, to increase your perceived enjoyment of the book, I might leave out some humor that you would otherwise enjoy. When I talk of a comparison problem, I don't mean a simple comparison of one thing with an competition. If the competition is simply better than you, your problem is more than customer perceptions. I'm talking about the comparisons that common sense tells you should be irrelevant, such as in comparing the TV show to The Simpsons, and they weren't competitors in any real way. Okay, it's kind of hard, but it's gonna be okay tomorrow. It's okay. 수고했어요.